Every so often there will be a truly horrifying report of animal abuse or animal cruelty. The very worst cases of this almost always involve horses. The economy turns bad, and horses are very expensive to keep and to feed. Someone is sure to neglect their horses because they don't have the means to keep them, and no one else will take them. So the horses die until someone intervenes and finds the few remaining sick and starving animals, which will appear in a horrifying report of animal cruelty. Horses are expensive, and horse racing is even more expensive, much more expensive. And I have spoken here about it, how I am amazed that it is still a viable industry. It's a real anachronism in this technological age. Even the wagering aspect is under competition from all the casinos, and I can't see how anyone could afford to quarter all of those animals. Yet the racing continues. Every year they run the Kentucky Derby, try to make a big deal of it, and while I don't pay much attention to it, I do register some surprise that it still exists. I would have thought that time would have passed it by. When I was young, I could name every horse in the field. Horse racing now continues, and I'm guessing here because the horses are owned by rich people, people who are so wealthy they have nothing better to do with their money than to buy thoroughbreds and try to win trophies with them. Rich Arabs, English, Japanese. The days of the great Kentucky horse farms like Calumet are long gone. They called Calumet the New York Yankees of horse racing. It wound up hugely in debt and bankruptcy, but before it faded away, it had one last shot at winning that most coveted prize in horse racing, the Triple Crown. The feat is a rarity. Secretariat had won it in 1973, Seattle Slew won it in 1977, so there was little reason to think that any horse could win it in the next year when it came time to run the Kentucky Derby in 1978. But there were 4 horses that might do it in that race, especially 2, and one of those was Alydar out of Calumet Farms. When Seattle Slew was winning the Triple Crown, Alydar raced against another horse, Affirmed, 6 times as 2-year-olds. They exchanged victories, but Affirmed won more races, though none by any great length. There was therefore this hotly contested rivalry between the 2 horses before the Kentucky Derby was run. Alydar was the more physically imposing of the 2, and real racing experts thought that as the horses matured into 3-year-olds, he would become the stallion to beat. In the 1978 Kentucky Derby, Affirmed had the lead on the rail coming out of the final turn, with Alydar, known as a finishing horse, coming up on the outside. He closed well, but he was too far behind to catch Affirmed. He ran the other horse down in the stretch, but lost by a length. It seemed to be a defeat that stemmed from tactics, and not the relative qualities of the horses. Alydar had broken too late and allowed Affirmed too much of a lead, and had run out of racetrack at the wire. Many people were certain that the next time they raced in the Preakness that Alydar would not wait, and Alydar would win. Once again, in the race, Affirmed had the lead coming around the far turn. Alydar made his move and closed down the final stretch, but Affirmed refused to give that final bit of ground and won by a neck at the wire. Many were still not convinced. Alydar was not winning, but he was the better horse. The longer Belmont Stakes would change everything. Alydar was the more powerful animal, and he could pressure Affirmed, hook up with him early in the race and run him into the ground. That was the strategy, and that's exactly how the race was run. In the smaller field, Affirmed had the lead at the first turn. Alydar moved up early, caught him in the back stretch, and the pace picked up. The 2 horses left the field behind as they raced to the wire, still a great distance away. Affirmed did not fade, as many predicted, but on the final stretch, as the huge crowd went completely berserk, Alydar moved in front by a nose, and that was going to do it. He'd extend that lead to the wire. But Affirmed surged back into the lead and held it to the finish, winning by a nose, and with that nose, the Triple Crown, a legendary achievement. Horse racing had never seen anything quite like it. nor has it seen anything like it since. You toss in the jockeys, the trainers, and the owners, and you really have a complex tale. Add to it that both horses had a sire in their lineage, Native Dancer, and it all becomes even more improbable. But I can't let that stand. It's dramatic and it's neat, but it's wrong, because horse racing did witness a similar battle. That was in 1998 when I wasn't paying any attention, and Real Quiet won the Kentucky Derby, just edging out a fast-closing Victory Gallop. In the Preakness, Real Quiet won again, this time defeating Victory Gallop by a more substantial length. And in the Belmont, Real Quiet took the lead at the far turn and began to pull away from the field by 2 lengths, 3, 4. Here clearly was the new Triple Crown champion riding into history. Until Victory Gallop broke out of that fading pack, chasing the sure winner. Unbelievably, he closed the distance until at the wire, the race ended in a photo finish. The photo revealed that Victory Gallop had won by the slightest margin possible. How slight the difference between winning and losing, between famous and forgotten, between legend and footnote. It might be more than money that keeps horse racing alive. It might be great races like that.